Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright, so I don't say this often, and I tend to try to stay away or steer clear of using labels, words, ad hominem attacks, but in this case, I don't think it's an attack or a label. I just think it's the right word to describe what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. We're talking about Janet Yellen, a key figure in the Biden administration when it comes to economic policy and monetary policy. I'm not going to tiptoe around this subject. I'm going to say right here very clearly that Janet Yellen is an absolute moron, a total incompetent. And look, I'm not just saying this as an attack. Multiple years of her non-stop nonsense. This is supposedly the Biden administration's premier monetary expert, economic genius, Janet Yellen, an individual who gets paid, I'm assuming, hundreds of thousands of dollars to speak when she's invited to different events. And this person is either totally corrupt and just saying whatever she has to play the political game, or is completely clueless. She just made an appearance on Stephen Colbert's show where she tackled the issue of inflation and tried clearly explaining the current phenomenon to Colbert's leftist viewers, and holy moly, my brain hurts. You cannot be this disingenuous if you tried. Let me show you guys what she said, and let's really clarify some things and get straight to the facts. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so just take a look at the headline. It says a lot already. Janet Yellen says the real reason inflation is out of control is because Americans are, quote, splurging on goods.
You've been called a genius at explaining arguments simply and clearly. Others have said this. I know you haven't said this to yourself, but are you explaining arguments simply and clearly? Can you explain how inflation got so high? Because 2 years ago, everything seemed fine. Even in 2021, and you and other members of the administration believed that inflation was a small risk. What happened simply and clearly?
That's a challenge.
That is, yeah.
So we had a rapid recovery from the pandemic. When President Biden was elected, unemployment was quite high. It was close to 7%. And we put policies in place that generated a very rapid recovery. Unemployment quickly fell back into the threes.
Where is it now?
3.7.
Okay.
So normally you wouldn't expect, just because you had a rapid recovery, for inflation to rise very much, if at all. But it turned out the pandemic had very special impacts on the economy. Remember, everybody stopped spending on services. They were in their homes for a year or more. They wanted to buy grills and office furniture. They were working from home. They suddenly started splurging on goods, buying technology. We suddenly working through technology. And bottlenecks started developing where supply in particular important sectors of the economy just couldn't keep up with demand.
Alright, so we have a lot to unpack here. We've got a lot to tackle. Let's first start off with how she describes the general circumstance. When Joe Biden took over as president, inflation was high, around 7%. And, I quote, we implemented policies that led to a swift economic recovery, leading the unemployment rate in the 3% region. Now, I said it was a quote, but more of a paraphrase, but you get the point. The Biden administration implemented policies which started a rapid economic recovery. I mean, that's enough to make your brain melt. First of all, the Biden administration had nothing to do with the job market recovering. That happened on a state level, as state governors and city mayors, very conveniently, after Donald Trump exited the White House, decided that it was finally time to open up the economy and let people go back to work. Very convenient timing indeed. Is that really an economic recovery thanks to the Biden administration's policies? No, that was finally a way overdue end to the emergency measure abuse which simply allowed people to be productive again. That's not economic policy. That was the end of Democrats' state-level tyranny. And the idea that that was some miraculous economic recovery is a complete joke, considering what we all knew, what we all predicted, and what we were expecting, some hard economic times which followed. Another slap in the face. Janet Yellen is painting this beautiful picture of a V-shaped recovery, as inflation was spiking and the middle class was suffering throughout the entire process. Oh, but it doesn't really matter, because unemployment rate is in the 3s. Newsflash, the job market isn't the only indicator of the economy. In fact, I'd say the economy still hasn't recovered. Then, of course, Janet Yellen goes on. The reason inflation started spiking is, hey, what can I say? She throws her hands up in the air. People's are just buying too much office furniture. Hey, well, would you look at that? This is a purposeful misrepresentation. This is a purposeful, dishonest, shady, manipulative response. Because yes, it's true. Consumer overspending, a red-hot economy, had something to do with current inflation. But she is very conveniently omitting all of the factors and all of the key facts that led to that situation, that led to those supposed bottlenecks. Who remembers when government started to go into lockdown mode and that initial coof recession hit? That massive downturn in the market, I believe in March 2020, around that time, I'm sure most of us remember. Who also remembers that supposed V-shaped recovery that happened literally a couple weeks, if not a month or two later? That was a direct, well, do we know why the markets tanked after lockdowns and then immediately started to spike tremendously, especially tech stocks? And of course, cryptocurrencies as well. What is it that happened that caused all of that influx of cash into the markets? Oh yeah, governments across the world printing trillions of dollars in subsidies, handing over stimulus checks to pretty much anybody who asked for them. Not to mention all of the relief packages and loans, of course, of which we know these programs weren't exactly implemented properly and led to billions of taxpayer dollars being stolen by fraudsters. Could that have something to do with the market just miraculously, quote, recovering? Could that have something to do with all of a sudden consumer spending spiking through the roof? Absolutely. That's what happened. And it happened again in 2021 as Joe Biden once again handed 1,400 stimulus checks and more government taxpayer freebie goodies in the early parts of 2021. Janet Yellen is so incredibly dishonest. Oh, well, people were just spending. No, you were giving people money to spend. You were printing trillions of dollars and just making it rain on the economy, which, by the way, let's not forget, all of those bottlenecks that she was referring to once again came from Democrat policies throwing wrenches into the supply chain machine. So of course the Biden administration knew that there were supply chain issues because they were stopping people from working, closing down important transport sectors, firing people from their jobs, refusing them the right to work because they weren't making the approved medical decision. Then they simultaneously printed trillions of dollars, overstimulating the economy, which led to increased consumer spending when supply and of course the supply chains could not keep up. In other words, they're absolute incompetents who don't know how the economy works, and now they're laughing in our faces and going on Stephen Colbert's show and just saying, hey, but you know, people just were buying too much stuff. Yeah, because of you. That's you. You did that. It's just such an utterly dishonest representation of what transpired. It's such a failure to take accountability. She's sugarcoating the situation in front of a very left-wing Stephen Colbert audience to try to portray this image as if the Biden administration was just so successful in their economic policies and economic recovery. We did such a fantastic job, says Janet Yellen, as trillions of dollars in wealth have just evaporated from the markets. And that's after they infused the markets with trillions of dollars. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Their policies led to the crypto boom, by the way, which then led to the crypto bust. People's entire net worth in some cases, or a chunk of their portfolio, has just vanished thanks to the whole crypto thing. Tech stocks are down like 50% across the board, at least all the big growth stocks. Housing has become totally unaffordable. And here's the Biden administration doing a little fluff interview on Stephen Colbert, patting themselves on the back. For what? For yet again another Democrat scam racket. Because who truly benefits from their supposed economic recovery? Is it you, the little guy? No, of course not. They infused trillions of dollars into the market. The regular retail consumer got absolutely fleeced. And the 1% 1%, the financial elite, the asset class, is laughing because, of course, where do you think the money went? Straight into their bank accounts. Just like the whole crypto thing. Guess who got pumped and dumped? The average retail consumer. Guess who made billions of dollars off of the crypto boom, which largely happened off of the stimulus check boom? Of course, institutional investors and banks. It's one or the other, folks. Either Janet Yellen is dumb enough to believe the stuff that she's saying, or Janet Yellen knows the truth and chooses to manipulate you and misrepresent the facts because she's a bought and paid for establishment shill. Those are the only two options. I have a feeling it's probably the second option. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.